The creativity is the key.
Yeah.
And it's without that and without a muscle to experiment and be wrong and also double down on things that are working, the GTM Alpha concept won't kind of work for people.
Go-to-market for SaaS and AI is in flux. Automation is reshaping the org chart. AI is changing buyer behavior. Tested playbooks don't work like they used to, and CFOs are asking harder questions about every dollar spent. In this series, we speak to the leaders facing the changes head on to understand how GTM is evolving and the tactics, tools, and strategies that are actually driving growth. In this episode, we speak with Everett Berry, head of GTM Engineering at Clay, about go-to-market in the AI era, what GTM engineering means in practice, where AI is working and where it falls short, and why the best teams prioritize creativity and constant experimentation to find GTM Alpha.
Everett, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's the first time at SaaStock, but it's been a blast.
How have you found the show so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Lots of people with creative ideas for growth, things they want to automate, and those are the things I love to talk about.
Awesome. So I'm sure most people who are listening have heard of Clay. I'm sure a lot of people have heard around go-to-market engineering. Why don't you just tell us what actually is what do Clay do, first of all, and what is go-to-market engineering?
Yeah, so Clay is two things. The first thing is that it's a data marketplace where there's 100 or so data providers for things like phone numbers, emails, revenue data, influencer data, social data, anything you could think of that would be useful data for go-to-market. Most of that is available in Clay through our marketplace. And what's kind of interesting is you can purchase the data directly from those different data providers. And so instead of having like one contact database, you can get access to a dozen contact databases at one point. And for a lot of customers, that means they can kind of like fill in gaps in coverage they have or refresh their data faster or things like that. So the first piece is kind of this data marketplace. The second piece is this spreadsheet style interface where you pull all the data in and then you can kind of stitch it together and automate things.
Yeah.
So you can build these scaled out outbound and inbound and ABM and signals-based campaigns, and actually, in many cases, automate a lot of the traditional tasks that are sort of routine data tasks that reps are doing, like sourcing accounts and contacts and then writing messaging. And so for our customers, they often find that they can kind of get some big efficiency wins. And then there's this kind of new emerging role around GTM engineering that has kind of come about, I think, largely through some of the things that Clay has enabled for customers.
Nice. And were you hired specifically as that job title, like head of GTM engineering?
Yes.
Or were you the first ever head of GTM engineering?
Actually, there is a guy at Dropbox that I think might have been GTM engineering for me. I just learned about him like a few months ago, but as far as I'm concerned, it is a bit of a one of a kind title, and a big part of what I do is try to tell people what it is and how to think about it and how to implement it for their organizations.
So GTM engineering, it's at the intersection of marketing, sales, product. Are you running all of those teams? Like, gonna give a bit of a flavor for that?
Yeah. So what a GTM engineer at most companies does is they automate parts of the go-to-market process.
Yes.
And so in a lot of cases, it's going to be something like prospecting, where today a rep will spend hours and hours a day sourcing leads, writing messaging, and so forth. With the availability of AI and a lot of the data that is available today, you can actually fully automate many of those tasks and do it in a centralized manner as well. So many companies find that they are able to send like higher quality messages, that are more personalized to actually in many cases smaller numbers of people because the targeting is better. So the person at the organization that is doing that is automating go-to-market processes is the GTM engineer.
Yeah.
Now at Clay, what we've done is, because a lot of customers use us for this task, we have sort of have this concept of like a forward deployed go-to-market engineer where we go into customers and we help them automate their processes in Clay. And so I help customers sort of think about and implement Clay and these new AI strategies and these sort of high leverage automated tasks. And for many organizations, it does involve some change, and it involves kind of a new way of thinking. And I try to sort of talk to executives about that and teach our team about that and oversee that whole operation at Clay.
So the role is actually very hands-on with your customers.
Yeah, I like to, I still do lots of customer calls. I was doing table builds this morning.
Yeah.
I find that the space is changing very quickly.
Yeah.
And actually, like one of the ways to like not succeed at Clay is to start to lose track of what's happening with the product and some of the functionality and what customers are doing with it. And in fact, the talk I gave this morning was this whole spiel on a GTM Alpha, which is all about sort of like constantly iterating.
Yeah.
And so I try to sort of, maybe at the expense, honestly, of some sales process that I should be putting in place, I try to stay really, really close to the metal.
GTM Alpha is another term which I've been hearing a lot. You've obviously coined it. Why don't you, like, really quickly just explain what it is, layman terms?
Right. So what happens with most go-to-market tactics is they have a shelf life.
Yeah.
They expire. And in a prior role, when I did years of growth marketing, it was always such a bummer where it's like, oh no, our one funnel, like our one channel is drying up. And it was like so disappointing. But the reality is this happens no matter what. No matter what channel or tactic you've established, even if it is super productive, it will stop working over time. And that's because the software will catch up, the data will catch up, other people will start doing it, and the market will sort of saturate itself, and then people will stop responding. So a great example of this right now is this like alma mater email.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, did you ever, so I went to Purdue University, did you ever like ride the train, which is Purdue's mascot? And then, by the way, here's my SaaS product. And so in a previous world, that was like a really unique email. And it was like, oh, the rep took the time to kind of see, well, like what school I went to and all that.
Yeah.
But today it's like, well, an AI just obviously wrote that.
Right.
And buyers know that.
Yeah.
And so that tactic has kind of expired. And so GTM Alpha is the concept of continually finding new tactics and continually experimenting to sort of find alpha the way they do in the finance world, and then maintain a permanent edge against your competitors.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I was at AI First yesterday. It's our side event helping companies get ready to become AI First, obviously. And Alina from Chili Piper, she was speaking, and she was saying like they've got like I think 15 outbound SDRs, and they're all crushing it. Like, but for the most part, what's really making them better and the results better is actually the creativity behind the work that they're doing. So it's like, okay, well, we've got all of our systems, our processes sorted. A lot of it is automated through AI. So all the work that's needed required to actually get to, let's say, a level where you go, all right, well, now the rep can reach out with actually flexing those creative skills that they have. And that's where they're actually finding a huge amount of like traction with their outbound motion at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The creativity is the key. Yeah. And it's without that and without a muscle to experiment and be raw and also double down on things that are working, the GTM Alpha concept won't kind of work for people.
Yeah.
As an example, I happen to find this Twitter account, or X account, I should say, R for Rock. It's basically this account that posts about funding rounds that are like in progress but not public yet. And so normally what happens is companies raise money, but then they announce it like months later. So this account is essentially some VC that is just leaking like these active rounds that are being discussed and posting about it on X. So I set up a Clay table which just pulls those posts into our demand gen channel and tags the account owners of those posts, because for Clay, a company that is raising money and growing is like a real ICP fit for us.
Yeah.
And so that's an example of alpha. And now, how long will that account be active? I don't know. That tactic probably has a very short shelf life, actually.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of like the creativity and the niche that you can find if you organizationally are able to be creative and to experiment and to have like, Clay pitch the tools and data to actually do that stuff.
Of course. So let's look at Clay over the last, let's say, 6 months. Like, what's one thing that you guys are doing differently this year that's driving a lot of like pipeline or some new initiative? Can you help us understand what's really working in terms of driving growth for Clay at the moment?
Yeah, for us, it's been these hackathons. And so we, it actually just happened organically. A customer was like, hey, I just have these 3 or 4 things I'm trying to build for my SDR team. Can we just come to the office and like build these with you guys? And we said, of course. And so they showed up, and in a couple of hours, we knocked out like a couple of automation workflows that in many cases would take a company a while to get going, even if they have a tool like Clay. Yeah. And so then we were like, well, we should just do this as our main top of funnel. And so we've been organizing these hackathons all around the country. I'm doing one later today in Austin at 3. And we do them in New York. We do them in San Francisco, where we show up to customers' offices and we just kind of build tables with them for a few hours. Usually they get like weeks or months worth of work done in that period of time. And then for us, it's great because their workflows are going, they're, spending credits, their things are automated. And for us, it's really efficient because it's a couple of hours versus, we'll do a 30-minute Zoom call and another 30-minute Zoom call and all this. So the hackathons and the in-person presence have been really working for us this year.
And so like, I think like also this, obviously we're at an event now and, it starts to see, I think Clay, am I right in saying in the first few years, they weren't very active at in-person events?
No.
And why was that? And what's changing now?
Well, I think that Clay in the early years was pretty heads down on product. If I had to kind of like summarize, we mainly had a engineering and a product team and a support team, and very, very light kind of go-to-market team. So about a few months before I joined, we hired our first marketing leader. Then I joined and have since built out an org of roughly 30 or so go-to-market engineers. So now we have like a lot of firepower to, kind of...
Are they all human?
They're all, most of them are human.
Yeah.
And there's some people where, the jury's out. But that's enabled us to kind of go on site with customers, to come to these events. And I think what we've done well is we've hired people that actually really get it. And so they can come on a show like this, they can do a panel, they can go out and really be in person with people. And the last thing I'd say is, in SaaS, it does get pretty digital sometimes. There's emails and LinkedIns and calls and Zoom meetings. And so the human in-person presence, I think, is a little unique. And I just like one more bit on this for our sales kickoff. I just had a screenshot of ramp travel as one of the slides, and I was like, "There's unlimited budget. Just go out there." And I think pounding the pavement has been good for us this year.
No, it's great. I think like as the world becomes even more increasingly like digitized, and with the rise of AI, and we see AI agents and all this kind of stuff, I think like having companies really flex what their brand is in a real setting with real people is going to be more like increasing. We're going to see it more important, like rising more and more. I think like actually getting in person and spending that time with your customers, with your team, it's going to be invaluable, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. I also just think like there's something to be said for kind of the energy of being in person. And a lot of go-to-market is creative. It's what ideas do you have? What ideas does that person have? Then that makes me think of another idea. And like, I kind of think of some of the scenes in Mad Men where they're thinking of the creative ad copy. That's the kind of feeling we want to get going when we're in person with customers. And it's just so much easier to do that kind of work in person. And of course, Zoom is still good for, discovery calls and it's exec alignment. And But the creative go-to-market design and building, I think that it just really works well in person.
So we've touched on AI. How are you guys using AI at the moment to drive more growth? And have you deployed many agents? What does that look like?
We do. We have lots of agents that are running. We are doing things like we have kind of internal Slack bots that can answer questions. We are actually automating our Salesforce updates, which is, I think, my favorite thing that we're doing right now. So when calls are happening, the call's recorded and gone. We send that to Clay. We run that through our internal kind of LLMs. And then that LLM will qualify or disqualify the opportunity. Now, it's not fully automated. So what will happen then is...
super interesting.
What will happen then is we'll send a Slack message to the rep that says, hey, we think this opportunity should move to like stage 2 qualified for these reasons. And then the rep has kind of the GTME, Freudian slip, has kind of like a 2-day SLA to say, yes, I accept this opportunity is qualified, or no, it's not. And if they don't respond, which is honestly fine, people are busy, then we will just auto-update the stage in Salesforce of the deal. And so that'll happen throughout our deal cycles. And so now, like, I haven't opened Salesforce in, like, months. And so I'm really excited about that. I've always thought that there's just so much routine data entry and the ability of LLMs to kind of understand the context and quality of the calls has made a huge difference for us.
Did you build your own? Did you buy? How did you...
So we, I say our own LLMs, but what we do is we upload all of our sales enablement materials to Clay. So the LLMs, like you can upload PDFs and things to Clay. So the LLMs have all the internal context that we care about. And then that's kind of one input to the prompt.
Yeah.
The next input is the call transcript. And then the last input is kind of like how to qualify or disqualify. And so we've kind of gotten that prompt and that flow in Clay dialed into the point where people are giving good feedback on it. And I think our CRM is as clean as it's ever been, actually.
No, that's amazing. I wish our CRM was like that. Might have to get some tips. Well, last question. Where do you see that? Okay, so like, where do you see the future of GTM? Like, what does it look like everything's moving so fast right now. In the last 6 months, we've seen significant changes. So in 2 years' time, what's it going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think one area that has not worked so far, but might, is this like AI SDR area.
Yeah.
I think it hasn't worked because basically automating that thing full cycle is just like not possible right now. There's way too much context and creativity and also just adaptability that happens in good go-to-market teams where they are, to the GTM Alpha point, constantly experimenting.
Have you actually tried any of the
Oh yeah. We know them.
You tested them.
We know them. We know them well. We compete against them. We run up against them. We kind of are familiar with all of that.
Yeah.
But that's not to say it will never work. I think it's possible that some type of truly agentic, sort of full end-to-end things will be introduced in the next few years that will be pretty incredible from maybe looking back like a year ago. I actually think SDR is one of the more creative roles. Like the ability to kind of get in front of customers and wow them is not to be underestimated. But I think there are other roles within go-to-market that seem like they are a ripe target. One that I keep hearing about is renewals. Another that I keep hearing about, which I'm not sure I fully agree with at the moment, is some sort of like sales engineer companion on the call to like answer product questions.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see lots more of these types of things. I also think that voice agents, especially for like inbound and outbound, will become more prevalent. So I'm excited about all of that. I still think people will want to dial those things in a good way, and we'll make that possible in Clay. But the level of automation that you've seen now, I think, is just a glimpse.
Well, Everett, it's been amazing having you. I really appreciate the talk. And
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Great event.
Yeah. Cheers.